Let's talk the color. One more thing, like, subscribe, and share. Come on, let's talk the color. Woo!
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Cutler here in the Let's Talk the Cutler broadcast. Class. It is a class, right? I guess it's a class, but the Let's Talk the Cutler broadcast, the Let's Talk the Cutler YouTube platform, the Let's Talk the Cutler virtual book club. I'm thankful to have made it to another Tuesday. It is the 20th of December. I tell you all, this year is going by, the month is going by. It'll be Christmas before we know it. It'll be New Year's before we know it. It'll be 2023 before we know it. But I'm thankful. I'm counting my blessings, and I'm thankful for the journey. How about you all? Hey, I want to tell you, if you stop by my channel for the first time, you're in for some inspiration, you're in for some motivation, you're in for a challenge. I hope you're up for a challenge. I like challenges. Every now and then it helps me to be challenged, because I get better whenever I'm challenged to become better. I get better whenever I am prodded and poked to become better. I get better whenever I'm pushed and pulled to become better. And so I'm always thankful for people in my life who don't allow me to stay in one place. They don't allow me to stay in one space, but they help me to see more. They help me to appreciate more. They help me to become more. And I'm always thankful for people like that. So I try to be that for somebody else's life. I hope for the past years since I've been on this platform and this channel, I've been that for somebody, trying to push you into better, trying to pull you into better, trying to help you to see better. So thank you so much for joining me these Tuesdays and Thursdays for these 1800 seconds. We are just a few days away from one of my favorite holidays. So I just want to say happy holidays to everybody. I hope you all are gearing up for a fantastic time with family, with friends, with loved ones, with people whom you haven't seen in a while. You know, we are still dealing with the COVID. We are still dealing with sickness and disease. We're still dealing with those kinds of challenges. So we're still in a state where we have to be careful. We have to be cautious, but we are at least in a place where we can see people, we can touch people. So if you are in that position to be able to do it, take full advantage of it. Make sure that you appreciate the people that you still have with you. Make sure that you let people know that you love them, that you appreciate them, and allow people to say that to you as well. And step back and live in those moments. You know, we, from day in and day out, I'm already talking, but so I'll just tell people this channel is about inspiration and motivation and encouragement and challenging ourselves to show it better. But I just wanted to say that when people say happy holidays, when people say Merry Christmas, when people say Happy New Year, when people say good to see you, learn to live in those moments. Learn to live in the moments of joy that people spread. We take those moments for granted. When people will say happy holidays, that's a moment of spreading joy that we sometimes ignore, we sometimes overlook, and we sometimes don't live in. So I'm encouraging us, every time somebody says happy or merry or good, pause and breathe in that moment. I promise you, if you do that, this holiday will mean more. You will process this holiday unlike you've processed others in the past. Because think about what's happening. Someone is wishing you happiness and not sadness. Someone is wishing you joy and not sorrow. Someone is speaking life and not death. That's what's going on when people say happy holidays, Merry Christmas, good to see you. So I challenge each of us to learn how to live in those moments. Learn how to soak up the significance of those kinds of conversations, ever so brief, this holiday. And so that's a tidbit I thought I'd just put out there. It just came to me as we were coming on live, and I just thought about it. I thought how we just sometimes miss the moments. So that is the challenge. That is the challenge. Don't miss the moment. The challenge for us from this conversation is to learn how not to miss the moment. Don't miss the moments. Well, I don't want to miss the moment. I want to do a shout out to the LTTC VIPs, those people who jump into the chat first and start talking to everybody, because we are still in for a ride this evening. So let's take a look and see who's in the chat first, so I can shout out the LTTC VIPs. And Annie Color, who says, let's ride, get aboard. Sonia Betty says, good evening. And MV, who says, hello, everyone. Well, I'm so happy to see all of you all. You know, we've been talking about how to handle overly opinionated people, and I am still challenged in this area. I'm challenged not just with how to handle overly opinionated people, but how to make sure that I am not overly opinionated myself, even when I am asked my opinion. Sometimes we can be overly opinionated even when we are asked our opinion. And that's one of the things I want to make sure that we are not. Is offensive and overly opinionated to the point that people turn and run the other people turn and run the other way. So we've talked about what it means to be overly opinionated. We recognize that there's nothing wrong with having an opinion, but when we are overly opinionated, it means, you know, we get into we we become offensive. And we talked about how to recognize overly opinionated people and how to check ourselves and make sure we're not overly opinionated. Y'all do me a favor, do a thumbs up on this conversation if you like it. That way it says to YouTube that you like the content that I present. It also says to me that you're encouraged by our conversation. But I want to go back and stay on topic for a few moments this evening. You know you're overly opinionated. You know that you're around overly opinionated people if they talk more than everybody else. You got a room full of people and you got one person who's talking more than everybody else. You know you have an overly opinionated people if you can't if you can't wait to say what you have to say, even if it's not responsive to what people have said. All right, so you have to be careful about that. You know you're overly opinionated if you walk and talk down a one-way street. You never change your mind about anything. It's always this way. You've always seen it this way. You never even opened to the possibility. Today I thanked someone for sharing something with me, and I thanked them by saying, thank you for at least thinking that I'm open to the possibility of something. That is my saying. That is my phrase. I always want to be open to the possibility of something different, or at least open to the possibility of a different perspective. A person was saying to me, you know, this is going to be a sad time because Christmas is now over, Thanksgiving is over, Christmas is over, and now the world doesn't seem as mystical, it doesn't seem as magical. And I said, oh no, it's about perspective. It is about perspective. Might it be that as soon as we get through this holiday, you get a chance to build up, and now the anticipation and the excitement for another 51 weeks builds up? It's about perspective. All right. Because there's some people, why am I saying that? I'm saying that really within the context of this one point, that there's some people who walk and talk down a one-way street and they never change their mind. I'm so glad to see everybody wishing each other happy holiday and saying hello to each other in the chat. That just really warms my heart. I'm a Southerner at heart, you all. A Southerner by birth. I'm a Southerner at heart. I love when people speak and exchange greetings. And again, don't forget to live in the power of these greetings, the power in these moments. When people speak to you, they say hi and hello. I just need to pause just a moment and go back there. When people say hi and hello, it is a moment of saying, I acknowledge you, I see you. You bring value. You have value added to the world. You have value added to humanity. When people speak, they see you. And learn to live in these moments. Have you ever had a moment where you were walking by and somebody said hi, hello, and then you realize, oh, they're talking to you? You said, oh, were you talking to me? They were acknowledging you. They were saying, I see you. You are value added to the world. All right. I'm stuck on that for some reason because I want us to live in the power of people speaking and people recognizing and people wishing you happy holidays and people saying Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and all those sorts of things. All right. But let me just get back just for the sake of staying on topic. People also know that they're opinionated when they're closed-minded and they just jump to conclusions. It's just, you know, they see the world one way and that's it. There's no way of seeing it any differently. People know that they're opinionated when they talk too much. They know too much about too much. They know something about everything. They know about science. They know about math. They know about history. They know about social studies. They know about geology. They know about geography. They know about cosmetology. They know about astronomy. They know about astrology. They know about biology. They know about zoology. They know everything. All right. So people who know too much about everything. Oh, yeah, yeah. Just overly opinionated. So we talked about how to handle those people. And as I talked about how to handle those people, I think what's important to me is not just how we handle those people, but how do we make sure that we don't become those people? That's what's important. Not just how to handle them, but how to make sure that we don't become them. And we looked at a few things in terms of how to handle overly opinionated people and how to make sure we don't become them. One of the things we said was that you have to figure out if you need to even confront this behavior. I'm just going to run through these and then I'll pick up with where I'm picking up. But one of the things we said in terms of how to handle overly opinionated people, ask yourself, is this really worth confronting? Just let them be. Just let them do their own thing. Is this a hill, a battle that I really need to fight? And then something else we said, remember that a cornered animal will attack. Learn how to confront people in private, you all. Remember that setting and environment is important because if you attack some people publicly, you're going to embarrass them. So learn not to respond in emotion, but learn how to time and place what you have to say. That is an art of conflict resolution. Learn a time and a place for presenting what you have to say. That is so important. Even if it's not within the context of dealing with opinionated people, take that one as a lesson in life, period. When I'm dealing with people, I have to make sure that I know, that I consider where I say what I say, that I consider when I say what I say. And then something else we said in terms of dealing with overly opinionated people, become the example of what you want to hear. Become the example of what you want to hear. Even if you want to say, it's okay, I don't know everything, and it's okay. Because you that way you give the space, you give people the space to say, oh, okay, I don't know everything either. Learn how to use I statements instead of you statements. Instead of saying, you did this, you did this, you did this. So, I feel like I've been interrupted several times during this conversation. So learn how to use I statements. People feel less attacked when we use I statements. I hope you all take this and you practice it because it really works. It really works. You show people how to lower their shields and their defense mechanisms whenever you use I statements instead of you statements. Because whenever you use a you statement, you're going to cause me to just sort of posture a certain way when I hear you say, well, Cutler, you, and I'll pause and I'll posture a certain way. But as opposed to when you say you draw me into the conversation. Did you all get that? There was almost something demonstrative in what I just did. Because whenever you say to someone, whenever you say you, this is what happens. Cutler, you did, and I'll go, okay. And so then I'm waiting to hear. And my mind is already wondering, what is it that you're going to say to me? And so I've positioned and postured myself a certain way. Cutler, you. And so yeah, I sort of brace myself like, oh, okay, all right. Let's see what it is you have to say, right? As opposed to when you say, Cutler, I so and so and so. So then rather than me doing this, when you say you draw me into the conversation. Oh, okay. I feel like I've been interrupted 5 or 10 times in this conversation. So you pull me into rather than pushing me back. You all just try that. Just try it. Shoot me an email. Let me know if it works. The next time we talk, you all let me know if you notice the difference in people's acceptance and their responses to what you have to say when you call their name and say you as opposed to saying I. See if they do this or this. All right. Just take it and let's come back and talk about it because I'm curious if you all recognize the difference in these I statements. All right. So, so Linda says, I'm here to catch the last 900 seconds. All right, I'm just sort of catching us up. But become the example of what you want to hear. And then you all stay respectful. Whenever you talk to people, whenever you're dealing with overly opinionated people, you have to stay respectful. And sometimes uh, you you want to go along the threshold of not being respectful, but how, Cutler, do I stay respectful? Learn to ask questions because that signals respect. Like, what do you think we can do to so and so and so? As opposed to telling people, this is what I think you need to do. This is what we ought to do. How do you think we can proceed? What do you think? Learn how to ask questions. And then don't be sarcastic with your questions, all right? And then, as my mother often says, fix your face. Just learn how to fix your face. Smile sometimes when you talk. And then here's something else I think I shared with you all the last time we were here. I said one of the ways to deal with overly opinionated people is always have an exit strategy. We talked about that. You all remember because you said sometimes you tell a person, hey, call me in 5 minutes. But learn how to avoid areas where a person might show up. Just don't go to certain areas or avoid certain face-to-face conversations. Learn how to have an exit strategy. But then let me pick up and finish this conversation this evening with these last few tips about how to handle overly opinionated people. One of the things you are, and we have to learn this. God help us to do this. Set conversational boundaries. Learn how to set conversational boundaries. Some subjects are just off limits. Just don't discuss them. If you know it sends you to, you go from 0 to 100 in 5 seconds based on some subjects, just don't discuss them. Why do we set ourselves up for emotional overload? Why do we do that? Just set some conversational boundaries. If an overly opinionated person insists on talking about religion and politics and money and any topic that makes you feel uncomfortable, you just need to attempt to privately tell the person that you don't like to talk about such things and that you would appreciate avoiding those discussions. Be firm. Stand in your convictions about the things that you don't want to talk about, the things that you know are going to push you over the edge. If you can't handle religion, don't discuss religion. You might even want to say something like, well, I know that you have strong opinions on that subject, but I'd rather not discuss it. It makes me uncomfortable. Or just say, let's talk about something lighter. Let's talk about something different. And be firm and do not be hooked and roped into a discussion that you know is going to cause you to go into emotional overload. Don't do it. Set what I call conversational boundaries. For some of us, that is a new term, that is a new concept, but you know some things push you over the edge and you still walk right into them. I've done it before, you all. I've said to myself, nope, I'm not talking about that. Nope, I'm not going to discuss it. Nope, you're not going to rope me into that conversation. And then I found myself right into the conversation and I was emotionally exhausted and I was emotionally disgusted with myself because I was tired from participating in the conversation. I was on emotional overload and I was upset with myself for having allowed myself to have been dragged into that conversation. Set some conversational boundaries. Let me know if you have ever heard about setting conversational boundaries. And then try that one for real. Over these holidays, people are going to be discussing some of everything. And you have to learn how to say, let's talk about something different. Or I'd rather not talk about that. And then just don't talk about it. I don't care if there are 5 other people talking about it and you're number 6 in the room. Just don't say anything. Just find an exit strategy, walk away, do something different. But if you know how it's going to affect you, don't go there. Let me keep on moving and off another tip, you all. Learn how not to overreact with these overly opinionated people. Learn how not to Learn how not to overreact. So what am I saying in a nutshell? Just be tactful. Don't overreact. Be tactful. Because you will find a situation where an overly opinionated person is constantly giving advice or trying to show a better way of doing this or a better way of doing that. Sometimes you just simply have to say, thanks for the suggestion. Or, I appreciate you for pointing that out. And if they don't take that, I'm going to give you all this one. Because we have to learn how to do this. We can be so roped into a conversation and we feel as though we have to offer something. We have to say something. But I want to give you 2 words of advice. SI, simply ignore. Don't overreact, but learn how to be tactful. And if you can't be tactful by saying thank you for the suggestion, I appreciate you pointing that out. Just simply ignore. I'm telling y'all, learn how to simply ignore people, learn how to simply ignore things, learn how to simply ignore certain moments, and just do what you know is best to do. Because you might find yourself reacting against at this overly opinionated people, and your emotions start building up. So learn how to simply ignore people. Thank you, Tracy. If the conversation starts going wrong, I usually say, let's agree to disagree. That's right. Learn how to be tactful. Don't overreact. And you say to yourself, and you don't have to say to them because this may put them on guard. Just say to yourself, I'm not even going there. I'm not even going there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You do that internally and you say to yourself, I'm not going there. I'm not allowing them to take me there. I'm not giving them the power over me to force me to come out of character or to force me not to be tactful. I'm telling you, we've got to learn how to do that. And some people say, well, yeah, I wouldn't do that. I tell people I give people peace of my mind. By the time you give people a piece of your mind, you don't have half a mind left. We just feel the need to get back and to dig and to do all of that. Just learn how to be tactful. Learn how not to overreact. Learn how to simply ignore. Learn how to, thank you, Tracy, agree to disagree. Because there will be times when people who are overly opinionated, I'm just saying this, and you all know it is the truth, that they can be obnoxious and domineering. They can be obnoxious and nasty. They can be obnoxious and caustic. They can be obnoxious and irascible, obnoxious and all of those things. And they get under your skin. So learn how to be tactful. Learn how to, we say this all the time, learn how to, in the worst situation, to present your best self. That is why we're on this journey to become better. And resist the temptation to sometimes be passive or aggressive, or what we call in the South, nice nasty. Oh, we got some folk who could be nice nasty. Got some of my family, got some of my circles who can be passive aggressive, or what we call nice nasty. Learn how not to be that person. Don't get into a shouting match, but then make sure that you don't sit around and roll your eyes at people. Make sure that you don't mumble under your breath and mutter certain snide remarks and certain snide comments and conversations, because when you do that, it's only going to increase the tension between you and that person. Learn how not to overreact. People, my friends, my brothers and my sisters, let's learn how not to overreact. But be tactful. Be tactful and diplomatic. And then I have to say this. I don't know if I get to any more after this one, y'all, but this one is true to my heart. I believe this with all my heart. Make sure that you give people the space and what I call the grace to be themselves. Ooh, Cutler, you're asking for a whole lot. I'm just saying, if we're having an honest conversation about how to handle overly opinionated people, give people the space and the grace to be themselves, even when they are overly opinionated. Allow them to be themselves. Ask yourself, why, let me consider why they are like that. Because you have to remember that it is okay to have an opinion. At its core, it's okay to have an opinion, because we are all entitled to our opinions. Now, how we share them, to what degree we are offensive with it, that's something different. But it is okay to have an opinion. Give people the space and the grace to be themselves. Because remember that many people are taught not to really have an opinion or express an opinion at all. And for people who have been conditioned like that, it can feel really uncomfortable to be around people who not only have a strong opinion, but they are really willing to clearly articulate the fact, it's my opinion, I'm entitled to my opinion, and da 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 da, and all of that. People who enjoy lively debates, they just enjoy these kinds of conversations. And so you have to ask yourself, and you have to allow, not really ask yourself this, but let people be themselves. Because, and why do I say that? Cutler, why is that important? Because there are cultural differences among all of us. Some cultures downplay frank and open discussions on certain sensitive topics, while other cultures may treat it as rude not to talk things out. Allow people to be themselves. Give them the space to be who they are. because it could be a matter of a cultural difference. That's one of the reasons I enjoy traveling the world, because when I hear people speak in different tones and I hear what sounds like the harshness, it is just really their cultural way of expressing themselves. I, so cultural differences are important. And then family upbringing is important. We cannot despise people for doing some of the things that they do because it is a part of their culture, and it may be a part of their family upbringing. In some families, children are encouraged to speak up and share their opinions, while others are taught. While in other families, children are taught you are to be seen and not heard. I mean, I think that's kind of this is just me. I think that's kind of out of place these days. But that was a part of my upbringing, and certainly that was the upbringing of generations before me. Children were to be seen and not heard. But again, in some families, children are encouraged to speak up and share their opinions. So it could be a matter, and we can, and you all, let's stop saying what's wrong and what's right. Because maybe in your family, children were encouraged to speak. Maybe in somebody else's family, children were to be seen and not heard. Children were to stay out of what we would call grown folks' conversation. It is a matter of family upbringing. It doesn't make one way right or another wrong. It is what makes us different. The same way cultural differences make us different. Give people the space and the grace to be themselves, is what I'm saying. Personality differences. Some people are more outgoing and more judgmental, while others are more concerned with getting along and keeping an open mind about what's going on. People have different personalities. It is a matter of learning what works for you. And it is a matter of learning how to adjust to the differences. How do I handle the differences? You handle them when you care enough to recognize that they exist. Let me say that again. Cutler, how do we handle the differences? You handle the differences when you care enough to recognize that they exist. When you recognize that cultural differences exist, when you recognize that differences in family upbringing exist, when you recognize that personality differences exist. We've got to learn, you all, that our way is not the right way. Your way is not the wrong way. My way is not the best way. It's just a way, especially when it comes to opinions. Especially when it comes to opinion and opinions. And I want to offer this one before we get out of here for the evening. And remember this, you all. As much as overly opinionated people can get on your nerves and rub you the wrong way, I want y'all to hear me when I say this. Yeah, they can really get on your nerves and they can rub you the wrong way. But hear me clearly when I say this. It's an opinion. The world does not change based on an opinion. I'm not talking about legal settings and cases and those things, but I'm just talking about with people sharing their opinion. It's only an opinion. And remember this is all I want to say. Remember that everyone is entitled to his or her opinion. Different people just don't see eye to eye on the same things all the time. And sometimes this can be so difficult for some people to handle. It seems so wrong for another person to feel the way he or she does, but we've got to remember that. Thank you, Juanita. Juanita says these are great points, and let me put my glasses on. She says these are great points and remind us to respect each other where they are. Juanita, absolutely. It is about respecting people where they are. We always talk about, hoop and hollering, like getting along, people don't get along, or this, that, and the other. But so many times we're in the position to serve as referees of peace. That statement hit me. We are in the position to serve as referees of peace, but instead of standing on the sidelines and serving as referees or umpires as peace, we get involved in the game where there seems to be no control. We get involved in the hockey game and the football game. where there sometimes seems to be no control, but we miss the opportunity to stand on the sidelines as referees and umpires of peace and help to make sure that we all respect people where they are. People are entitled to their opinions. Having a different opinion does not make anyone less than you. The opinion is not the same as the person. A person can have the same opinion as you, but that does not necessarily make the person better than someone with a different opinion. Listening does not mean that you agree. I need to say this again. Listening does not mean that you are agreeing. I said to someone earlier today, I strive to be an active listener. And because I tune my ear to what you have to say, that does not mean that I'm agreeing. It means that I am listening so I can process what you're saying to me. You all, please hear me clearly. Listening does not listen to people. Simply listening to another person's point of view does not mean that you agree with him or her. It just means that you are giving them the courtesy and the respect of hearing them out. There are some people who just live to argue, and that can be exhausting. And you find out that you will not win every time. When sometimes when people who they just live to argue, you won't win every time you argue. So that's why sometimes it's okay to give a pass on this argument. I don't feel like arguing with you today. I'm not getting involved. I want to say it this way before I get out of here. When you get these, what I call these invitations to argue, sometimes that's what the exchange of opinion is, you all. It is an invitation to argue. And I want to say this to you. When families are gathered over these next few days and people are sharing all sorts of stories, all sorts of conversations, all sorts of opinions, and you will get these invitations to argue because people are sharing their opinions. I need to say this to us and get up out of here. When you get these invitations to argue, you don't have to RSVP to every invitation. You don't have to engage in every argument where you are invited. Remember some of the things we talked about before. Their cultural differences, their family upbringing differences, their differences in people. Remember to have an exit strategy. Remember that there are some conversations where there are some conversational boundaries that I just need to set. Remember this. Don't RSVP. Over this holiday, you all, do not RSVP to every invitation to argue. I want to thank you all so much for sharing this time and this space with me. I hope it makes a difference in your life. It certainly makes a difference in mine. These are things that I'm really going to work on over the holidays. If you haven't done so, make sure that you do a thumbs up on the conversation. I appreciate you all so much. I appreciate the feedback that you give me many times when you say, these points are really helpful, Cutler. So I thank you. I thank you all for helping us to do what we do. And let's keep on doing it. Let's keep building community. Let's keep maintaining connectivity. Let's keep our heads up, our hopes up. Let's stay safe. Let's stay sane. And please know this, that from my heart to yours, there is and always will be so much love. If I don't get a chance to see you Thursday, I plan to be here. I'll be here. But just in case some of you all miss it, I'm going to wish you all this again. I'm going to wish you a happy holidays. I'm going to wish you a Merry Christmas. I'm going to wish all of that. And remember to live in the power of those moments. When people say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, good to see you. Learn for just a moment to stop, breathe, and live in the power of the positivity of that moment. With all my heart, I love you all and I thank you. I'll see you next time. Until then, tell somebody, come on, let's talk to Cutler. Good night, you all.